Dear friends, God's grace is with us today. Amen. Life can change very quickly, can it not? Most of us know that from firsthand personal experience. Life can change very quickly. Just a few days ago, we were in Bethlehem and we were singing, "O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie." Things can change very quickly. Today we are again in Bethlehem, and things are not still, they're not calm, they're not bright. There is chaos, and there is violence, and there is weeping. Herod has been tricked by the wise men. An angel appeared to the wise men and said, "Don't go back to Herod and report as to where you found the child." And so it says the wise men went home by another way, and Herod was furious. And so he sent his soldiers down to Bethlehem, and in and around Bethlehem, they killed every child 2 years and younger. Those children, our church always remembers on December 28th, which was yesterday. It's called the Day of the Holy Innocents, and it refers to those children in Bethlehem. We should also remember that the world is still filled with the holy innocents. There are so many children who are still suffering at the hands of the Herods of this world, whose hearts are filled with darkness and who have no respect for life. So we are told that an angel warned Joseph in a dream that he was to take Mary and Jesus and flee to Egypt. So what we come to understand here is that the Holy Family started their life as what? As refugees. The Holy Family. They were refugees. And I wonder who the people were that received and welcomed them down in Egypt. I wonder who had the honor, who had the compassion to welcome this family and to care for them, to keep them safe, and to provide for them. Maybe this experience as a child is what Jesus was talking about as an adult when he said, "I was a stranger and you welcomed me." Maybe he was talking about that experience of his family being refugees into Egypt and somebody welcomed them. And he says, so when you welcome somebody, when you welcome the stranger, you welcome me. The Holy Family were refugees, and the Holy Family still wanders this planet as refugees, because whoever welcomes the stranger welcomes Jesus. The Holy Family still wanders this planet as refugees looking for safety, looking for a way to provide better opportunities for their children, for a new life. There are millions moving around this planet, fleeing from Herod. There are over 25 million refugees in this world, and 50% of them are under 18 years of age, and they are coming from many different places. Those of us who love Jesus, that's all of us, right? Those of us who love Jesus and those of us who follow Jesus must have a heart for refugees. This is not you can take it or leave it kind of deal. If we love Jesus, if we follow him, this one who was a refugee himself, we must have a heart for refugees. Over the years, Trinity has been blessed in so many ways by welcoming Jesus in the form of refugees that we have sponsored or that we have gathered into our community. My count, I don't know if it's accurate, is that we have been able to directly sponsor 21 refugees here at Trinity. 21 people who have a new life. 21 people, and I can tell you, probably almost every one of them is making a difference in the communities where they live. They have been a blessing. They were a blessing to us, and as they've moved on, they've been a blessing to others. And at one time, we had 44, because I have all their names on my computer. We had 44 Sudanese refugees who claimed Trinity as their faith community. One of them is with us this morning, Elizabeth. And I was so excited to hear that Elizabeth just recently was able to go back to Sudan and to visit her family. Now, many of those Sudanese folks have moved on because they looked for better opportunities. And most of the refugees I know, they just have that spirit, that commitment that they're always looking for a better opportunity to better the life of their families. And to be frank, some of them moved on because of Iowa winters. Some of our refugees were part of what were called the Lost Boys. And did you ever end up with any Lost Boys out in Boys Town? Yeah. They were the Lost Boys. They were boys that were orphaned or separated from their families during the Civil War from 1987 to 2005. There was 20,000 at one time who were trekking across Sudan, heading to Ethiopia and Kenya to seek safety. And it was typical that in these groups, there were lots of different groups. They weren't traveling all en masse, but in smaller groups. The oldest boy in the group became the leader of the group. And some of those boys who were leading groups were as young as 10 years old. That's the age of our grandson, Jace. Can you imagine that? They hiked over 1,000 miles to get to safety. Some of the boys that were in those groups were as young as 4 and 5. Imagine that. I cannot. 50% of them died on the journey, killed by lions and snakes and other wild animals, disease, starvation. They would go to those refugee camps seeking what every human has the right to have, and that is safety and basic needs provided for their lives. And thank God for Lutheran World Relief. We're always there. We're not the only ones. There are a lot of others. Catholic Relief, Presbyterian Relief, Methodist Relief. But we are always there to welcome the refugee. Well, one of those lost boys was Majak Gotwek, and he was a member here at Trinity. He's still a member here at Trinity. And when I returned to South Sudan with Majak, we went to the village that he was from, and he took me to the place where their family home was. And he told me about the day that the fighter jets came swooping in, dropping their bombs, blowing up the whole village. And then he showed me the direction to where he and so many others fled into the bush, seeking safety. He told me that on his trip, his 1,000-mile hike, Sometimes the hunger would become so acute that they would eat mud. The boys would eat mud to still the hunger pains. I cannot imagine. Majak is one of those amazing stories of refugees. He just went back there, probably within the last year and a half. And I think he spent almost a year there. And he came back, and he called me on the phone, and he said, Father Greg, I need to come see you. And so I set an appointment, and Majak came, and he gave me this big folder. And it is entitled Chief Noir Royal Foundation Incorporated. What Majak did, spending his time in South Sudan, was he is establishing a program to take care of orphans from the most recent civil war, and there are lots of them. But he has set up an organization that will provide orphanages, will provide schools, will provide health care, will provide job training that is specific to the employment needs in South Sudan. I find that amazing that he did that. And he gave me this, and he said, I want you to read this. And I said, thank you. I'll make sure that I read it. And he said, no, I'd like you to read it now. I don't know if he didn't trust me or what. But he said, I want you to read it now. Almost every refugee and immigrant that we have worked with here at Trinity, I find that they have this incredibly acute sense of paying it back and of paying it forward. We have had so many of our Sudanese members who have returned to South Sudan when their life here is so much more comfortable and so much easier. But they have gone back because they feel that they need to pay it back and pay it forward for the gifts and graces and opportunities that God has given to them. I got to tell you, I think we could all use an increase of that kind of attitude in our lives. That we all have a lot to pay back. And we all have a lot to pay forward because the incredible blessings that we have as being a part of this country that we live in. So on this weekend, we remember that the Holy Family were refugees. And I would just suggest this, that in this new year, we've done it in the past. We know we could do it again. In this new year, let us be open to the promptings of the Spirit who might be calling us to new opportunities to serve brothers and sisters who are seeking a new life, who are seeking safety and opportunity for themselves and for their children. So God bless all of the refugees that we have sponsored, all of those who have enriched our community in so many ways. And especially Elizabeth, God bless you. Thank you. Amen.